Seems to work. Cool. So hello and welcome to the first live stream of me building a open source toolkit called OpenEngine. The idea behind this is when I use Google and other types of search engine, it seems to regress to the average person, which means that if I search for something, if I search for some deep tech news or something like that, I end up with articles from crappy websites, from crappy journalists who I don't care about, but who are very good at making Google show their articles first in the search results. Gaming Google like this means that the best content doesn't actually rise to the top. It's just the content that has the widest mass appeal and has been, I don't know, fine-tuned the most to appeal to the widest audience, or not even to appeal to the widest audience, but to appeal to Google. So I would rather that this wasn't the case. I would rather that I had my own search engine that I could query for things that I'm interested in, and that only had an index based on people that I'm interested in. So it's actually not that hard to do this. All you have to do is find people you're interested in, find out where they publish content, and then scrape everything, index it, and produce an index that can be used as a search engine. So this is the first part of that task that I am going to do today. So the first part is making a web crawler. I could use something like Scrapey or something like that, but it feels too clunky to me. It feels like there's too much stuff inside of that, and I don't necessarily want to do that. Also, okay. First thing to do is find out what to use in Python. So I'm using Python because Python is really broadly available to people. I think it's the most known or second most known language after JavaScript, which means that when I release this open source, in fact, it already is open source. In fact, actually, I should probably add that, shouldn't I? I'll do it in a sec. Anyway, when people can get their hands on it open source, they'll be able to make changes easily. It'll be fast to adapt with and stuff. And it might not be the fastest implementation, but it will be an implementation that anybody can use and anybody can change, and therefore hopefully get the technology in as many people's hands as possible. And we can sort of all collectively undercut Google. I know I'm saying this on YouTube, but you know, whatever. So I'm actually signed in here. No, I'm not. Okay, I'll do it somewhere else. I've got faith in my heart. Nothing in this world can blah blah. Okay. Where am I putting this? Cool. Right, okay, so you should now be able to go to the description and see the project. Okay. So, first things first, there are a couple of choices for the correct crawling technology, AIO HTTP and HTTPX, and I can't remember which of these is better. And whilst it searches for that, I'm going to search on here. Speed. Much worse performance. Oh yeah, I've seen this. Right, I'm going to go with HTTPX then. For server-side asynchronous web applications. So as I go, I also make notes, basically. I make notes and I also write flashcards on web development. And that is what I'm doing here. So in fact, I'm sure I must have done this already. Haven't done it? No? Okay. WebSockets, that's for forward duplex runtime communication. Okay. Just research when they were created as well. The WebSocket, this is always a good reference. Cool. This is just a guess, which I do a fair bit on these cards. Like an educated guess based on limited information. Isn't it amazing that you can sort of do this stuff for free? You can basically send gigabytes of information across the internet almost for free for like £30 or something a month. And yet it costs 3p to send a text message. That is absolutely wild. How dumb is that? Okay, so we're going to use HTTPX. Fine. I am never afraid of using... That doesn't like it. Okay, so... I would normally just use the terminal in Visual Studio Code, but... Probably doesn't matter, but I don't know. I don't know if it does matter if people see the information that comes out. Checks. Oh, does it? What am I going to leak? I'm sure it doesn't matter that much. Okay, so let's do poetry shell. So I'm using this little toolkit in Python called Poetry, which lets you build a virtual environment and run your code through there. It also makes it easier to release these things as packages on PyPy, which I guess I might do potentially. Okay, so let's do poetry add HTTPX, just check that's correct. This is a, if you haven't used it, peppy.tech, and if we see HTTPX, 1 billion downloads. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. 3 billion downloads. Oh my god. It's always good to check the package. So if I just look here, you can see that this is this is the home page. 13k stars. It's probably right. Although, how many stars does this one have? 15k. Nah. Oh well. Anyway, this should work. Ta-da! Okay. See if it's the same. Is it the same? Oh. Okay. Guess it's fine. Right. So what I want to do now is test this. So I've got some testing code here. I think I need most of that. That might do. I should have super. Oh, super even disconnected. Why? No. Use the free to. Right. 1 second. Okay. Just going to do this while I connect my email. Cool. So if you haven't used it before, I would argue that SuperMaven is literally the best, by a long way, the best code completion tool that exists. Quite cheap as well. It's like £10 or something. I don't have the paid version, but right. I wrote this code a while ago. In fact, I could even see when it was if I get up lazy git. This is a great tool as well. 9 weeks ago I wrote this code, so I've sort of forgotten. What it is. Oops. Doesn't like that. It also want me to import pattern filter. Nice. So you see that completion, that's Super Maven, and it's so much faster than Copilot. It's way faster. I don't even think they're using a proper transformer or anything. I think they must be doing something else. Pattern filter, etc., etc. Module HTTP access no attribute client session. Right. Okay. So it doesn't have one of those. So if I go back, and then I can take this, go to here. If in doubt, do that. Now read HTTPX's documentation as well. Async client. Okay. So does that mean I need to do forward? Hey, yeah, boy. Try again. Oh. So when you're testing code, should I test code in this? Or should I just do it in PyTest? No, I'll do it here. I'm going to do it here just because it's faster. You see, look, that autocomplete. Oh, beautiful. And we need to add some random text. Oops, still didn't do it. Simple asynchronous calling function that continuous reads else from the L queue and adds responses to a response queue that can be consumed by the consumer. Sure. What? Are you even saying this is happening? Oh. Fail the retardation check. Waste 2 minutes. Coroutine object does not support the asynchronous context manager. Async with session.get response queue. So it doesn't like that for some reason. So what's happening here is I'm trying to asynchronously get an URL that I've just got from the URL queue, which is like a constantly updating thing. if I get a response status of 200, then I'm going to wait for the response.text to be returned. And I'm going to turn it into a beautiful soup object, so that means I can sort of pass through it. If soup is not none, so if I've set this thing, then I'm going to get all the links from the soup, and I'm going to run an Earl filter function on it. Now, this doesn't yet include me doing anything else, because I can just add it to the response queue, and then the response queue, other asynchronous code can call from the response queue and operate, basically. So the different parts of the program are waiting on each other, and technically they could be spun off into their own functions, I guess, if that was necessary at some point. Okay, so what's it saying? It's saying I don't want to do this because await crawler async with session.get or coroutine object does not support the asynchronous context manager protocol. Oh, that sucks. Let's see then. Let's see what it changed. Okay. Returns the body as a string directly. It's always good to get ChatGPT's opinion. Get method is a coroutine. It doesn't support the use of an asynchronous concept manager. Like, I have no shame. No shame in building this whilst understanding nothing. Fact, is this the right place? Maybe not. Let us go to a different location. I've got faith of the heart. Boom. 16 studies in 3 days. Wow. 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 Okay, interesting. This is roughly how I understand it. Current viewers. Hi. Who's that? If I can turn on sounds. Can you turn on sounds? Is it possible to turn sounds on when people send chats? Anyway. Right, so let us continue with the crawler. Right, so we can change this. Response equals a wait. Session.get. Let's change that to client. So it's not as confusing. And what did they say as well? Let's just nick this. Okay, let's try that again. I'm coding a crawler for an open source search engine. This is just answering a comment from someone. Let's see. So that's still failing. Got unexpected argument session. Client equals client. Come on. Bam. Nice. There we go then. That works. So what we've got now is the bare bones of a crawler to get information from a queue. And we're setting up here and saying, okay, we want this queue. Event.set. Yeah, so let's make this clearer. So basically the way this works is I've got an async.io event, which is something that hangs on to state that asynchronous functions can look at. And when I set it, I can tell it to stop crawling, or, you know, I just basically set the event. When the event is set, this will pause this while loop. And I guess it constantly checks or something clever happens behind the scene. Okay, so now what do I want to do? As I use this for writing things down, it's quite a good little notes tool, Obsidian. That will do. Now what I want to add now is a response queue. And then okay. So let's just run through how it works then. I don't think I need this. Just comment this out for a minute. Yes, I'm writing notes also. I don't know how long the time delay is here, but let me know when you hear that I said I'm also writing notes. Pattern filter. So you can sort of see the way this works is this crawler takes in a queue of URLs to visit, a filtering function, a client to make HTTP requests asynchronously with, a response queue, which I haven't completed yet, and a stop event, which will stop it from running. And so the first thing it does is it gets an URL from the URL queue, prints it out. This is just for me to see what's going on. It will be removed. Retrieves the beautiful soup. Well, basically gets a response, and if the response status code is 200, gets the beautiful soup of it. then it runs through and finds all the relevant links, adds them to the queue, and then it filters. Oh, sorry. It gets all the links. I think I could probably tidy this up a bit. It gets all the links and filters them based on the filter function that it's been given. And the filter func is that. I guess I probably need to add in something here about parameters, bam. The queue that contains the else to crawl. Yep, that's fine. Yep, yep. Cool. What's the code? Okay, so to demonstrate, I'm searching a blog from a chap called Casey Handmere, who I find interesting. He writes like quite interesting scientific pieces, particularly on space and hard technology. So like atom technology, as in technology that requires the movement of atoms. And I'm just going to search the front page of his website and then get all of the URLs. And you can see it ran in 0.4 seconds, whatever, and then it immediately stops itself because I don't want it to continue for more than one iteration. So if I say print addable URLs and then break, I don't necessarily need to do that. In fact, I don't need to do that because it will stop crawling anyway. Oh yeah, but then it just goes on forever. So and it goes on forever because it's asynchronous, and the asynchronous code. So annoying. Come on, stop. Cancel. Oh yeah, I know why. Yeah, that's fine. The issue is that Jupyter, I think, is asynchronous as well, and there can be only one asynchronous context in Python, and so if you run asynchronous code and then you try and stop it before it's ended by itself, then it will have to shut down Jupyter basically and restart it. So okay, so let's see. So we still get a few of these. We can see we've got some repeats from Mars comments, blah, blah, blah. So what I want to do is I'm just going to copy all of this. And then figure out a way of Okay. Let's see. Never heard of this before. Okay. Tell you what, why don't we do this not here but in here? Man, you gotta love Python's zero whatever. Oops. Quickly check that addable is a thing. No. What? Not. Oh, okay. How strange. Well, they exist here. Oh. Oh no, that should be fine. Okay. Huh? This is so stupid. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's try this. Okay, well that works. So, why don't you work? Try that. Okay. That works. That works. Oh. Wait, no, how can it be? Is it this? Nope. There we go. Hope there's not someone watching this screaming they know the answer. Why doesn't it like this? It's not to do with this, is it? So let's get rid of this because it's untidy. Will it return anything? Is it because this is an asynchronous function? No. Ah, finally. Okay, so the filter func is none. Pattern filter. Function pattern filter at this. So do we end up in here or no? Poor Casey Handmer's website. Getting a lot of traffic. Maybe I should change the location to something else. Let's change this to although I think you can spoof some of this, can't you, in PyTest? You can mock it. I might have to do that in a sec. So I'm not hammering someone's website. Fact. In fact, yeah, I'm just going to do it now. not going to go too crazy with that one. Pass on that for now. But more importantly, let's just take this. Let's see which is the best. I'm going to use the PyTest one. Okay. What? Right, let's try that. Cool. Don't need that. And what else? Blah blah blah. That's roughly the same thing, isn't it? If I get rid of that. So it's not that. Make this more testable. Yeah, anyway. So now I should be able to mock this. What is it? At pytest.mock. How do you do this again? Okay. So the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to get banned from the website that I'm calling. So I'm just going to mock the response instead, so that I can test why the filter function's failing rather than try and keep doing it via Jupyter and maybe eventually fall afoul of the WordPress client that's like, why does this IP keep hammering me? Okay. Okay. Let's see then. Okay. 507 million downloads. I mean, that's good enough, right? Cool. How is it suggesting I use it? can't. Oh, Q. Okay. See if that works. Stuck. Oh, this is so annoying. Can I just kill this? Okay. Okay, nice. So oh, this returns not. Oh my god. Well, it's still none. Despite me fixing whatever. why they're doing this. Slowly getting to the point where I may debug this. Maybe. Hello. Sig Makunji. Hopefully pronounced right. And yet, this doesn't come back from the crawler. How can it be none? Is there just something really stupid I'm doing here? If I'm waiting on this, well, it may be time to pull out all the stops and go to GPT-01 preview. What do you think, Sigma Kunji? Do you think this is going to solve the problem? Do you think 01 is amazing enough to tell me how what's actually going wrong? Oh, for God's sake, I'm not actually returning it, am I? Oh. Right, is this going to work now? We didn't need 01 in the end. Just needed me to not be a retard. Okay, cool. Well, that's that. So, sure. Fixed. So I want to say okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to add in a maximum number of iterations because it's useful for debugging. Although most of the time I suppose I wouldn't really bother using them. So to recap for Snowchild, basically the idea of this project is to create an open source search engine using Python. The reason I'm using Python is because it's very accessible to lots of people, and if it did need more performance, then it would be easy to change it to something like Go or Rust or something like that. At the moment, I'm building the crawler, and the idea behind the crawler is just to work with an URL queue, retrieve string URLs, and then call them using HTTPX, which is an asynchronous HTTP client, which means you can have multiple calls at the same time, and then turn them into a soup using Beautiful Soup, extract all the other links, filter for the ones I'm interested in, and then return them. At the moment, this isn't actually what it's going to be. It's going to be added to a response queue, and then we've got this async IO events for pausing and one for ending the while loop. Hopefully that explains what I'm doing, and the reason I'm doing it is because ideally there would be a better version, there would be a free version of Google that let anybody build their own search index on the websites and information sources they were interested in. So you could not use Google anymore. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully also that, yeah, there we go. And so where we're at now, Snowchild, is just getting to the point where I'm setting up the response queue. And then once I set up the response queue, I'll probably swap and change the name of the stream or something like that, because it won't anymore be about the crawler. It will be about parsing the information and turning it into an index or something. Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. Cool, right. Let's check that's all fine. Nice. And then that means I can get rid of that. Though actually I may as well. Oh, right, okay. Well, Snow Child's easier to say, so... Let's just get these. Let's return these first. And then do some testing in here. So, nice. Okay, we got them. So let's test them in here. Might just save these. I can't be bothered. It's fine. Actually, can't be bothered. Yes, I can be bothered, actually. So, this is a library called joblib that lets you, it's basically like pickling. It lets you dump data. Wrong way around, presumably. There we go. So yeah, so basically what this is doing is I'm just dumping the files so that then I can use them in a test. So this is binary data basically, and it allows me to read information directly from binary into a Python object. It makes it very fast to save and load Python information. So this is basically means I can now safely change this function so that it doesn't return stuff, and then I can change this somehow. Test the crawler function. Standard pattern filter. Page. And I'm just going to set up a response queue. And then in the crawler, I can say so do you understand this, Snow Child? Now I've actually got someone to bounce ideas off. Do you understand what's happening here? Put no weight, task done, annotations, etc. Empty, forget no weight. Okay, cool. So, for people who might not understand, everyone has to start somewhere. So, basically a queue is a messaging structure that allows you to push information in and then pull information out, and it allows asynchronous code to talk to one another without messages going missing, because it's not reliant on like timing or something like that. It's just there is an object that's not associated with this code apart from the fact that it puts stuff in, and there is another and the object can then talk to another piece of code that doesn't put stuff in but does pull stuff out. And so I can have this piece of code over here sending information in constantly. It doesn't care what this piece of code is doing, and equally this piece of code doesn't care what that piece of code is doing, and it just pulls it out and they sort of speak to each other through this messaging sequence. And so that's what I'm doing here. So I sort of want to decouple the crawler, which is the thing that's putting information into the queue, from the processor, if you like. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to call it yet, but yeah, let's call it the processor that's going to take the soups and add to them. Oh no, actually no, that's the wrong, isn't it? It's the L queue. I want to put stuff in. And in the response queue, put no wait response. I think that makes sense because let me just quickly check what put no wait does. I think this is worthy of one of these. So Snowchild, these are, as a junior dev, it's worthwhile going through some of this. So if you are learning how to code, one of the best things you can do is just learn every single piece of the language that you're learning, like what all the terms mean. And flashcards are really good for this. And so I use flashcards essentially for all sorts of different things that I'm learning, but it's mainly tech based. So you can see I've got one for web development. I've got like 680 odd flashcards, and in this one I've got 370 flashcards, and I add to this as I go, and write a question that I have. So for example, in this case, what am I interested in here? So yeah, so this is sort of like a software engineering question, like how does this work? And the answer is okay. Well, that's gratifying, isn't it? Okay. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do here is just chuck in the, not the response, but the soup data and or links, etc., etc. This should end when the max iter has happened. Let's just do a PY test. Oh, no, don't need that. One failed. That's fine. Attribute error list has no attribute, put no weight. And it hasn't ended. God, that's annoying. I can't kill this, so I just have to kill this. Is it because I didn't set max iter equal to 1? Yes! It ended. Cool. Out of interest, Snowchild, how do you learn how to code in the modern day? Now we've got ChatGPT and stuff. How does a junior JS dev learn? Okay. Don't care about that anymore. Nice. Do you use exorcism? Definitely recommend this. Imposter syndrome's all good. Have you tried building anything yet? Well, this will be an open source project, Snowchild, so feel free to get involved. Cool. Okay, so this test checks on the crawler. It sends in this as the URL. Comes in here, we get that URL. I say task done because all I need to do is pull the URL from here. And then try and get a response. So then I get the response, check the status code, which is just the code returned by the server. If it's 200, it means it was successful, which means I can then get my beautiful soup. I can pass that to response queue. I can then go through the soup, get all the links, and add all the links that are allowed by the filter function and by the filter function, add them back to the L queue. I can check this, so I basically just run this here. I use my client to do this, run the crawler, and check the L queue is not empty because it should have this in it. Then I check it has this in it, and I check that the queue size is 1, and then I can also check queue output. And I'm using a mock response here. So this allows me to, during the test, when this is called, I think that's, yeah, return the mock value. Yeah, so when this is called, return a mock value. And the mock response is this. And it returns a status code of 200, etc., etc. So now I just need to check the response queue. Oh, what's this? By the way, the code completion thing I'm using is called Supermaven, and it's really good, really fast, and it's free. So definitely something I'd recommend anyone who codes in VS Code getting, or in other IDEs. Yeah, I don't really want that, do I? Don't know what CSR is. What is that? Cool. Okay, so that is the response queue sorted out and the Earl queue sorted out, at least for now. And should mean that this is all fine. Filter the links. Okay. So let's try this now then. I am a full stack developer for a living. Sorry, it's just another response to Snowchild. So let's see. So we've got Earl pass Earl. Let's just see what it's doing. Print Earl. Print pass Earl. And we may as well import pass result scheme, HTTPS, netlock, net location, path, params, etc., etc., etc. Fragment. Okay. Didn't know that's what it was called. Let's write that down. Yeah, hopefully they're useful. Yeah, hopefully these flashcards are useful. I try and keep it, what's the right way of saying it? Try and keep it as loose as possible rather than being too terminology dense. Try and like break it down to analogy or something like that, or give examples and what have you. Like, I'm not always sure I succeed, because sometimes when you've been doing something for a long time, you get absolutely drowned in the lexicon of the field you're in, and so you don't even realize that you're using jargon. But yeah, hopefully it's not too jargon dense. Let's see. What am I looking for? Let's just copy this. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So annoying. Right. So let's think about this now. Crawl MVP is complete. Okay, cool. So basically, I think this is the MVP of the crawler complete. Oh no, it's not quite complete, is it? Because I have to do this other stuff. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's just copy this. So what I'm doing here is I want there to be a list of sites that have already been visited. And I want to do this all asynchronously. I need a list that obeys asynchronousness, basically, which means if it's going to be shared between multiple different pieces of code, then I don't want one piece of code to be editing it whilst another piece of code is also editing it. So I need a list that has a lock on it and will not allow other pieces of code to edit the same list whilst someone else is using it, basically. So use this lock to prevent that from happening. Also, though, yeah, also, will this actually prevent this from happening? Do, 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 do. I'm not sure if I know that this is 100% true, but let's just say it is. Bam. Python is great, I'm telling you. Best language. What about it makes you want to code in Python, by the way, just out of interest? I mean, personally, I code in both, and I just think Python's cleaner. It looks nicer. That's basically it, really, for my reasons for liking Python more. And also, it's got better libraries and stuff. So, and the syntax is nicer. Yeah, okay. There's a few reasons. Okay, let's just check that that didn't break anything. It did. Huh? Non-type object. Oh, right. What did he say that made you drop Python and pick up JavaScript? Surely you should be on Rust. Or something. Look up Mojo. Mojo is really good. It's made by the guy who created the Swift programming language in Apple and the guy who developed LLVM, which is the compiler that most high performance code uses. So he really knows what he's talking about, and he developed a language to use a brand new compiler he's making called MLIR, which is for accelerated hardware like GPUs and just basically anything to get maximum performance out of your computer. And it's going to be using Python syntax, so in fact it already does. It's released. It's not complete yet, but it's released. So it's worth learning Python for sure. Yeah. Let's set it to this. Hey, fixed it. Gotta love testing. Okay. Why didn't we just test this? Okay, so this will probably fail. Should fail, yep. And I want to say the CNLs. Oh, interest. Get it. Fair enough. Is there no opportunity for Python in India? Okay, so what's this doing? For Earl and Earls. So what made you quit Python then and move to JavaScript? What was it the Primogen said? I can think of some good reasons, but... So what I'm doing now is, because technically I might be able to pick up multiple different pages that have, say, like hashtag respond on them, or so that this was taking me to a fragment of a page, not to an actual page. I want to be able to get rid of things like that, essentially, because I don't need them. And also I might see the same thing multiple times. So here you can see I've got trilogy technical commentary, trilogy technical commentary 3 times. I don't need that information 3 times. So I just want to make sure I'm not getting that information over and over again, so that my search function doesn't just constantly have crap added to it and either have to say, well, I'm not searching that because I've already seen that, or whatever. Okay. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Yeah, so you can see here, I started out with 93 Earls and it's just cut them down to 24. So yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to use that in here. Get that in there. Add an explanation. I like doing this on 2 lines. I just find it more beautiful. I just find it more pleasing. Oh, I don't really need to do that, do I? It's too simple a function. Okay. Yeah, nice. To me, this is too many comments. I don't need to say that, do I? I don't need to say that. Okay, that seems more sensible. Right, I think this is the last test I'll do for the day, and that will be testing this cleanels thing. And that should be my crawler finished. At least at this point. How cool is that? Did you see that, Snowchild? Did you see how fast that was? Let's just change that to this, and yep. Cool. Oh, 2 failed. Why? Cool. Example.com/example. Yeah, I just expect these two. I expect it to be too long. Cool. Okay, so I think that's it. So the last thing to do is to push all of this new stuff. So if I come to lazy git, this is a git control tool that you can use at the command line, which is really good because it's very powerful. Yeah, don't want that stuff. Then if I reload this, reload. Refresh files. Oh, PyChash. I work for a company and as a freelancer. Do I want to add that yet? I don't know. My advice to a junior developer is try and find a problem that you want solved and solve it. My other advice is use flashcards. My other advice is use a tool like this, like Obsidian, to note down all the things you're doing. Keep a track of like the things that you've learned and stuff like that. Come back to your flashcards, relearn the information, go through them over and over and over again. I would definitely say do those practice problems and stuff, but try and focus on the practice problems that will teach you the basics, but then build things, because building things is way more engaging than doing practice problems, and no one cares about practice problems that you've done. So if you want to get good at software development, you should make things that you want to see in the world and then release them open source, put them on your GitHub. It's much more impressive. And you'll learn a lot more than just solving some other problem that someone else came up with that has no practical purpose. Hopefully that's helpful. Use good dev tools. That's some other good advice, I think. So this is a really good dev tool. I'll just import all of these on this one. So this is like a command line tool that makes it really easy to do really nice clean commits, or conventional commits they get called. Feet add. Okay. Test crawler.py. Testing techniques. I think this is actually a test, isn't it? Cool. Push to main. Boom. Okay. That's it for today. That's basically me creating an asynchronous caller. So I'll just go through roughly how it all works one last time. First of all, let's start with the asynchronous. Actually, no, maybe I'll leave that. It's fairly obvious, isn't it? I'm not going to bother. Yeah, so I'll start with the asynchronous list. So because this code is supposed to run in parallel, so you could have multiple requests at once rather than Python requests library, which is a solid library, but it doesn't allow you to send multiple requests at the same time. It's what's called blocking, and blocking means whilst the request is running, nothing else can run, which is not good when you're trying to send requests to many pages, because then your application is input output limited, which means it's limited. Your application becomes limited by the amount of time it takes to send a request to a server and receive one, and that might limit you to only doing one request every 200 milliseconds. Whereas if you can do many at the same time and not have to wait for the response, you might be able to do 200 in 200 milliseconds, like 1 a millisecond or something like that, which would end up being 1,000 per second, which would make you 200 times faster. So if I want to have some shared state between multiple crawlers that are all working at the same time, I need an asynchronous list, and the asynchronous list locks itself when someone else is using it, and it locks itself when some other piece of code is using it, so that the state can be shared without two pieces of code doing stuff to it at the same time and possibly causing an issue. This is a pattern filter. This is just a basic pattern filter that uses a regular, which uses regex expressions to check if a particular string exists in the URLs. And this is what I would use as the thing that people who are using the software can use to say what URL patterns that they want to search. So if I want to search this chap called CJ Handmere, this guy's WordPress blog, which I happen to really like. I think it's a really interesting blog about science and technology and what have you. I can set up a regular expression that says I only want to search URLs that I get back from web pages that are part of his blog. So that's what that part does. And then this part puts it all together and has an URL queue, which is an async IO queue, which is a standard asynchronous object that multiple different pieces of code can again use at the same time. So they can all put information into the queue, and then they can all pull information out of the queue. And that means all these crawlers can work together. So I can have like 50 crawlers working all at once, all working off the same queue, all pushing information to the same queue. So that they have a shared state, but they're doing different things. And that means I could, if I had 50 crawlers running at once, I can have 50 requests running at once. I can gather information faster, basically. This is the filter I just talked about. I have a client, which is the async client, and that can be passed to all of the crawlers. So all the crawlers can use the same client because that reduces overhead and makes the setup faster. And I have a response queue, which is where I'm putting the beautiful soup objects that I'm extracting from the responses from the HTML. I've got some async IO events. These basically help me pause all the crawlers if I want to, or end all the crawlers if I want to. And then this is just for debugging, max iter. In fact, actually, I should probably put this at the bottom because it's debug. This can go up. Oops. This can go up here because this isn't controlling. Yep. Okay. Why isn't it like that? Oh, I see. Fine. Yeah, so then I've got a list of these scene URLs. And this is for debug as well, this stuff, so I can just pass in a list if I want to, but normally it would be an async list. Okay. So, oh yeah, and the final thing is this cleanURLs function, which creates a set out of the URLs that I'm interested in. Actually, do you know what? I am going to push that. Space directed panels. Clear the output here as well. Clear our outputs. Okay. So, yeah. So what I have now is a crawler that is capable of having many of them called and all sharing state, and then asynchronously going to of all sharing state, asynchronously calling to URLs, putting the responses into queues, adding the URL queues that it sees, etc., etc., etc. And in doing all of this, it can collect information. So I have a crawler that can collect information using patterns on the URLs and stuff, and without spreading out too far, only going to the things that I'm actually interested in. Yeah. That's it. Next up is how do we then turn the information that gets returned by the crawler into something that could be used as a search index. So that would be I'm just going to call it process.py, and the crawler cool. Next live, possibly tomorrow. If you check my page, you will see that they are extremely intermittent. So, yeah, I can't guarantee that it will be tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. I might even continue working on this quietly by myself because I do struggle a bit more to talk and think and write code at the same time. But if I do, I'll come back and explain the changes I've made. And probably once it's done, if people are interested and comment on the videos and say they want to see it, I will do a full walkthrough that's not live so that it's easier for people to follow and it's not just me half rambling and stuff. I'll actually explain what the purpose is or do a full walkthrough of the code or something. Okay, cool. Thank you for watching, people who watch in the future, and thank you, Snowchild, for solidly watching this. Awesome. First person who's ever watched it for a long time, so always a first. Cheers. Goodbye.